So we are back to the medium's book. Elmo is not available today. We are studying the chapter is obsession. We went through the 3 different types of obsession, which is a simple obsession, fascination, and subjugation. And we discussed in this last couple of classes the differences between each one of them. The heaviest one is subjugation, but the more dangerous one is fascination, because the medium that is fascinated, or the person that is fascinated, do not recognize, and it's very difficult to deal with it, to treat it, to deal with it. Okay, so now we're going to start in the we read this first 242 last week, but I'm going to ask Soraya to read again, because it's the start of the item, so it's important for us to revisit what we read last week. Okay?
Okay. Causes of obsession, 242. As we have said, obsession is one of the greatest obstacles of mediumship, and it is also one of the most frequent. Hence, every effort should be taken to combat it, especially since apart from the personal harm resulting from it, it comprises an absolute obstacle to the purity and veracity of communications. Since obsession to any degree is always a result of coercion, and since such coercion could never be exerted by a good spirit, it follows that every communication given through an obsessed medium is of a suspected origin and merits no confidence at all. If perchance something good may be found in it, it is necessary to keep it and reject everything else that displays the least respect for doubt.
Elmo already explained this, so let's start the next one.
Okay, obsession is recognized by the following characteristics. Number 1, a spirit's insistence on communicating, whether or not the medium desires it, through writing, audition, tautology, etc., and its opposition to all other spirits to do so. The illusion is such that in spite of the intelligence of the medium, it prevents him or her from recognizing the falseness and ridiculousness of the communications received. 3, a belief in the infallibility and indisputable identity of the spirits who communicate and who state lies and absurdities under respectable and venerated names. 4, the medium's acceptance of praise from the spirits who communicate through his or her intermediation. 5, a propensity for avoiding those who can provide enlightenment about the situation. 6, offense taken at criticisms of the communications received. 7, an incessant and inopportune need to write. 8, any form of physical coercion that dominates the will and forces one to act or speak without wanting to. Number 9, continuous noises and disturbances around the medium that are either caused by the medium, him or herself, or that have the medium as their target.
Oh, thanks, Soraya.
Yes.
So first, it's the causes of obsession. We know that the obsession is always an inferior connection between 2 spirits that are related in a sense in their vibrational level. So that's why they are connected. But how do we recognize an obsession? And again, remember that this is related to mediums, right? Mm-hmm. We can expand beyond mediums, but the study that Kardec does here in the medium's book is related to communications from mediums and mediums that are obsessed. So a lot of these characteristics that he describes here describes obsessing of mediums, but we can expand this to regular people, not mediums, that can show signs of obsession in that sense also. So whenever someone has this natural desire, intensive desire to communicate, being talking or writing, or he cannot control, that's a sign of an obsession, right? Because you should be able to be in full control of yourself and allow the communication to come when you are comfortable with letting it come. So in a mediumship meeting, or let's say for those that are writing, receiving a book, so when you sit to write a book, but not at every time of the day and inconvenient times. Then the other things here are kind of signs of fascination, right? The medium being prevented from recognizing the falseness or ridiculousness of the communication received, a belief that is infallible, the identity of the spirits are, the perfect spirits. You see the communications, and other people see that they are not that serious communication. The medium refuses to believe. Again, it goes with our behaviors in our physical life, right? That people in general don't like to be criticized, and that can happen to mediums also, right? They think that their work is perfect, and every criticism is a personal attack, and not with the best interests of providing the best information. So the medium will take offense at criticism, will try to shy away from those that can help them. They would think that the spirit is their communicating spirit is the spirit and nobody else. So these are all characteristics that we can from the outside see a medium that is obsessed in some form of obsession. Could be more serious or simpler, but again, sometimes it's not easy, right? When you have to see it on a you are not going to come at one meeting and find out that the medium is obsessed because of one communication he or she received, because maybe the communication is not that great, but you are going to listen to it or read it and or hear it, and you think that it's okay. But if it becomes a pattern, that's how you are going to perceive an obsession. If the subjects are always the same, if the type of communication is very similar one to another, if there is no the medium, when it talks about the communications, talks about it as despite all the red flags that you are seeing, the medium keeps repeating that it is the most beautiful communication ever, the most beautiful energies and things like that, because these obsessing spirits, they are very capable of surrounding the medium with energies that feel good to them and will feel good to the medium also, because of
course
they are in connection. They are connected to each other, so they can feel this nice sensation amongst them, but that doesn't mean that it's not an obsession that is happening there. So it's not very easy to discover, to find out about the obsessive process, but there are some clear signs, right? When mediums isolate themselves, it's a very dangerous sign, it's a red flag. When they don't listen to anybody, when they're the only ones that are right are them, everyone else is wrong. They are the only ones that are right. These are all signs of obsessive processes. Okay. Questions here?
João.
Yes, Renato.
For me, sometimes I have a hard time to understanding how get so far, because I'm a logical person, so, and you know, I understand that everyone is different, and you know, but the thing that I have a hard time understanding, let's say that you are in a spiritist group. I mean, of course, you know, if it's a serious spirits group is better, but if it's not, but they are still studying, you know, books of Kardec and everything. And if they suspect or see that a person is, you know, suffering or going through an obsession, for me, is a very simple and logical thing. Just sit down with the person and bring the book, because all the information is there, and just go through all the signs and show without no doubt the person, listen here, you're showing this sign. Even though if the person doesn't want to admit that, it's very hard, because it's right in the face. I don't know if is that something that, you know, has been done, or is this a different approach, or you have to respect the person or whatever. But for me, I have a, you know, a hard time understanding how this happened, you know, in different spirits group with people that we consider that, you know, they're good workers, or they've been doing, you know, great work.
It's I know, Renato, it's easy to talk about it, but it's very hard to deal with it. In the cases we had throughout the years in our group, the mediums left before we could talk to them. They simply left. We noticed the signs. We were concerned about it, preparing to have conversations, and the mediums just left. They left the group altogether. The other thing is, when they are in some severe process of fascination, there's nothing you can say. They don't accept anything. You can show the book and read, and they will read the book and adapt it to what their own feelings, and interpret according to their own needs. And they are going to turn it around and say that we are the ones that are wrong, that we are the ones that are obsessed. I've seen it before, you know, because it's, again, when you go into this process, it's very difficult to deal with it, because those that are obsessed or influenced, they refuse to see that they are going through this process. And some of them, you know, some of them continue to do this work, and the work they are doing, and for years. And I've seen that, and I actually see some, not that the ones that were in our group, but others that are in this processes outside. They keep working as nothing has happened, as they are, you know, they are right. Everybody else is wrong. They read Kardec, and only them know understand what Kardec really means. Everyone else do not. So, you know, I don't know what to say, Renato, but the reality is, theoretically, you are absolutely right. In practice, it doesn't work. I don't know why. It's very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, again, I understand that people are, for example, I already said that I don't trust myself, so I'm always asking you and other people to check upon me all the time. double check, triple check to make sure that, you know, everything is going. And still I try to be mindful, but you know, some people they're not open that way. Maybe, I don't know.
No, they are not.
But as you said, if you see that happening, talking about, you know, our spirits group throughout the time, you know, more than once, and you say that you were preparing your, you know, getting things together in order to that happen, and the other side was faster. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So what do your guy what us as a group need to do better? Because it's not just a matter of losing people, it's a matter of not having the opportunity to help a person that, you know, is pretty much, you know, went through so much battles, and to lose in that sense.
You can you can only help those that want to be helped, right? That's the problem. If you think there is nothing wrong with you, how many times we talk to spirits that refuse to say, we tell them, you need help. I don't need help. Everybody that comes here needs help. I don't need help. There's nothing you can do for me. If spirits are like that, incarnates are also like that, right? So I understand your concern, but what we can do is continue doing our work seriously, continue studying and doing our work seriously, and try to prevent. Again, we are not perfect, so maybe we missed the opportunity with the couple that I remember that left, the two, not couple, they were not a couple, they're two different guys that left. Yes, maybe we should have done better, but it's really, you start thinking there is something wrong from the thinking to the decision to take some action. It was enough time for them to leave. We talk about it, right? But Zoraida probably remembers the cases, right? What else? What could we have done different, Zoraida? Can you think about something?
You've done all that you had to do, and perfectly done. No, I don't think so. I don't think there's anything missing there in what you're doing, you and Elmo. I don't think so.
Yeah. You know which cases I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I'm unfortunately, again, can we do better? Always, right?
Oh, well,
of course.
There's always an open door for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. But
until that time, you do what you're doing now. Absolutely.
It's hard.
It's very hard. That's why I'm listening to Renato, and I understand what he's saying. Is I don't have the slightest idea what that is, and I have to give my heart to all the mediums. There is so much work, and I'm sure you're doing all that you need to do, Renato. There's an open door there for learning, absolutely. But I'm sure that you're on the right road, so.
Yeah, the fact that you are open to it, Renato, is a big advantage that you have that not everyone has. A lot of mediums don't want to hear criticism, don't question. Yes, Ale.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi, I'm just listening, and it seems like, as you mentioned, there's not much people can do if the person don't want it to be helped. And even though when we're going through the process, we mean the mediums, is really hard because you start doubting yourself in every communication. Every communication is like, is this a real communication or not? And then you just doubt yourself so much, and then it gets to the point that you just needed a break. You just need to step out of it. And I'm talking obviously about myself and what I've been through. And I came back so many times. You guys know this. I always go and I come back. Most of the time it's not because I choose to, but because life is taking me somewhere else. But I face it already, the fact that I was doubting myself every meeting. Every meeting I would leave and I was like, my God, what am I doing? That wasn't a real communication. What am I doing? And as we always had like support, like we have our person, right, that we can talk to, I always spoke with my person about. And even though my person was like encouraged me to continue and all that, there was always doubt in my mind that if I was doing a good job or not. So it's a constant struggle, I have to admit.
But a sign that you are not obsessed is that you question yourself. The moment you stop questioning yourself and you start believing that your communications are coming from God directly, it's an exaggeration, but that's the problem. That's when you are obsessed, right? When you are doubting yourself, you are just trying to learn better about yourself and about the communications you have with the spiritual world. I don't see any problem if you doubt yourself. If you doubt yourself so much that you stop working as a medium, then it's a problem. But if you continue working as a medium and you question your own communications, you try to understand better if it comes from you or if how much of animism has in it. I think it's healthy. I don't see a problem with that. If you understand what I'm saying, Ellie.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying that is really harsh. It's hard.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I'm not a medium, but I can imagine that.
We want to do a good job. We want to make sure that we're not passing a communication that is not real, and and then we don't know. We're just trying our very best, and most of the time, in my case, my very best it seems to be good enough, and then it's like it was always. But I hear what you say. It makes sense. If you're doubting is not because if you're make a fool of yourself, like I'm the best. Yes, I'm giving this communication that. Yeah, I get it. I understand. But it's just harsh. I just want to say I sympathize with everybody that been through it and struggle, and not the ones that laughed, obviously, but the ones that keep studying and trying to learn every day. Thank you.
Fabio.
Yes, just because I guess goes also answering Renato's question and him being a medium and Alessandra also wanting to discuss this. And the question about the doubt, just about the doubt, I never actually doubted my capabilities much because I had already started or experienced rather some sort of mediumship prior to the work at the center. But with the communications and knowing a little bit prior to really studying all the Kardec books, because my mother was a spiritist too at one point, knowing a little bit about obsession, I immediately took all those communications from the first 3-4 years as completely personal, to the sense of they must be relatives of mine, because for me, I've seen this in my experience, and I've seen it in some cases of people that go to the center. I was able to see behind certain walls the relationship of the spirits to that particular person, medium or not medium, just people that go there. The greatest obsessions are those who are close to you. Is a mother of a father, or a mother or a son or daughter, and those relationships are the hardest to get rid of. You don't want to get rid of, you know what I mean? You want to get rid of in this life now. When you go back to the spiritual world, then it's great. But when you're here and one is there, is the hardest tie to break. Of everybody else, stories, this I'm speaking about stuff that we hear during the mediumship meetings, you know, the stories about the past or the wars that happen, those people, they are somewhat not related to you, you know, they're obsessions from minor causes. But obsessions, the way that I see it, the way that was presented to me after I started going to the center, was that, you know, that the family ties are the most difficult. They're difficult ones. Like today, you have problems with your family members, and you have joys. It's the same is happening with the spiritual world. Not everybody from your family is here, so it's a lot of it's a lot to digest for anybody. And then you go back to what Juan said at first. I mean, if you don't want to get help, you don't see the problem. An addiction, someone who's addicted to something never realizes he's addicted, never agrees with the person who's telling him that he's unaddicted. I don't know if you answer any of your questions, Renato, or I went completely off the track. But at least that was my experience.
No, it's you brought the subject and bring more value to it, and thanks to Ale as well to sharing her experience. And,
but again, you know, when I worked this 10 years receiving communications, I often mention this. It's for me as a medium, it was very important to go back. I keep repeating myself to those prayers at the end of the gospel for the mediums, because it states clearly there, because there were times, I don't know if you remember, but I do, there were many Mondays where I didn't get any written communication. And of course, I thought it was my fault. So from the Mondays that I didn't get a communication, because I got so many uninterruptedly for months, and then they stopped, I started as praying that prayer where it says, you know, I forgot what it says, the exact word, but it says, like, you know, if I'm not here to do a good work, don't give it to me. Don't give it to me, the mediumship, if I'm going to be wasted or wasting it with something that is not valuable. And I think that's a very important message from the spiritual world, telling us, you know, that this prayer kind of opens the door for the work that it needs to be done. It's not the work that you want to do, Renato. It's the work that you need to do that is often shown to us, you know, but we're blindfolded.
yeah, for me, it's a personal struggle, because it involves not only my development, but also personal relationships with people. And sometimes I feel like, you know, not only myself, but the group, evidently, you know, Soraya and João say they done the best that they could, but I always feel like, you know, I could do something more. And for me, because again, I'm a logical person, sometimes it's difficult to relate with what others are struggling, because to me, when I look something, I see most of the times black and white and pretty simple. Just follow the rules. For example, when I go to the spirits center, so if João tells me, oh, you're gonna work as a medium, you're gonna work as a counselor, you're gonna work at this and that, I really don't mind, because in my mind, I'm there to learn. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. So I'm not gonna be upset because I'm not giving a communication, or because I'm not doing this and that, or because I receive a message or not, or because but again, that's my mind, the way it works. And then sometimes you know, maybe the way I see things in a simple way, I'm just complicating things in a different way. But, you know, it just takes time to understand everything. But thanks
for
for
your process. Just you know, I often repeat that too. You know, once you're doing the work at the center on Mondays, at that time, it's a set thing, and it's a very important, the discipline of the communications happening at a certain time, a certain date. This alone, Renato, is a tremendous exercise, you know, because you have to be there regardless of how you're feeling, and you do that work, and the work is always, from that's my point of view, always the same, and it's always going to be the same. I don't know for how many decades that needs to, until we go through this change that, you know, people are going through.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Fabio. Thanks, Renato. Very good. It's good to the mediums participate, because you know, the personal experiences are important here, especially for us that are not ostensive mediums. Okay, Soraya, let's continue then.
Okay, and 244. In the light of danger of obsession, the question arises as to whether it is not actually regrettable to be a medium at all, and whether mediumship itself provokes obsession. In other words, whether this is not evidence of inappropriateness of spirit communications. Our response is simple, and we ask that it be pondered with care. Since it was neither mediums nor spiritists who created spirits, but rather it was the spirits who gave origin to spirits, spiritists, and mediums. And since spirits are simply human souls, it is obvious that spirits have existed as long as humans have, and that they have always exerted their beneficial or harmful influence on humankind. The mediumistic faculty is for them only a way to manifest themselves. And in the absence of this faculty, they do so in 1,000 other ways that are more concealed or less so. Therefore, it would be erroneous to believe that spirits only exert their influence through written or verbal communications. Their influence is ongoing, and those who do not concern themselves as spirits, or who do not even believe they exist, are nonetheless exposed to it like everyone else, even more so by not having any means of defense at their disposal. It is through mediumship that a spirit makes itself known. If it is evil, it always betrays itself, no matter how hypocritical it may be. We can therefore state that mediumship enables men and women to meet their enemies face to face, if we may so express ourselves, in combat with their own weapons. Without this faculty, even spirits act in the shadows and counting on their invisibility. They truly do much harm. Through how many acts are not men and women urged to their disgrace, which could have been avoided if they had had a way of enlightening themselves. Disbelievers do not realize how right they are when they speak of someone who persists in error. His evil spirit drives him to his loss. Thus, far from making domination of evil spirits easier, knowledge of spiritism should have as its result, in not too far off future and after its promulgation, the destruction of such domination by giving everyone the means of being on guard against these spirit suggestions. Then those who succumb to them will only have themselves to complain about. A general rule applies.
Okay, let's stop here,
Okay.
because it's a long chapter. So let's talk a little bit about it. So the first obvious thing that Kardec is saying here is, so if we're discussing all these dangers of obsession, fascination, subjugation, shouldn't mediumship really exist? Wouldn't it be better if it doesn't exist? And then, of course, Kardec answers simply saying, you know, spirits have always existed. It was not spiritism that invented spirits or mediumship, but it's the other way around. Spiritism came to explain the relationship between the discarnate spirits and the incarnated ones, and expand on the concept of mediumship and explain how mediums work. So the fact that mediumship exists, it's not what provokes obsession. We know that what provokes obsession is an affinity between two spirits and the negative affinity between two spirits, incarnated, discarnated, or incarnated and discarnated. The fact that mediumship exists actually facilitates the work of the communication between the two worlds, can give it more credibility, makes us understand better the details of this relationship, but the struggles of those in the spiritual world, or the advices from the spirits in the spiritual world. So mediumship in itself, it's positive. The existence of mediumship is positive. The use that mediums make of it can be positive or negative according to their own intentions and their own humility, right? Their own self-analysis. So when you are dealing with a spirit, you are going to know, if you are open to study the spirit that is communicating through you, you will understand better the intentions of the spirit, if he or she is of good intentions or trying to cause harm. Okay? Okay, if anyone has any questions, please let me know, otherwise we'll continue reading, okay? Like Elmo does on this part.
Okay. A general rule applies. Those who receive evil written or verbal spirit communications are under an evil influence, and this influence imposes itself on them whether they write or not. That is, regardless of whether they are mediums or believers. Writing offers them a way to be certain as to the nature of the spirits who act upon them, and a way to combat them if they are evil, which is more successfully accomplished when they understand the motives behind their writing. If their blindness is such that it does not allow them to understand, others will be able to open their eyes. To summarize, the danger is not in spiritism, since, on the contrary, we can use it to control and save ourselves from the constant risk to which we expose ourselves without realizing it. The danger is, instead, in the propensity of certain proud mediums who lightheartedly regard themselves as exclusive instruments of highly evolved spirits, and in the kind of fascination that does not allow them to comprehend the idiocies that interpret. However, even those who are not mediums may fall into the same trap. Let us make a comparison. A certain man has a secret enemy of whom he is unaware, and who, unbeknownst to him, spreads slander and everything of the vilest nature that he can engender. The man loses his fortune, this friend avoids him, and his inner happiness is completely upset. Since he cannot discover the hand that is injuring him, he cannot defend himself and ends up defeated. However, one day the secret enemy writes to him and betrays his identity in spite of his cunning. Having found out who is the enemy, the man can now expose him and recover his reputation. Such is the role of evil spirits, whom Spiritism provides us with the possibility of discovering and outsmarting.
So when you are connected to an evil spirit or an inferior spirit, communicating or not communicating doesn't free you from the connection, right? Not communicate. You are attached to the spirit. So if the spirit communicates, it's a way of you to better assess the quality of the spirit that is connected to you. If you don't understand and you don't see it, maybe others will be able to see if you are open to it. So Kardec says here that the danger, it's not actually it's not in Spiritism. On the contrary, Spiritism helps us understand better about the spirits that surround us. And then he gives this example of a certain man that doesn't know the enemy, that is unaware of the enemy, and the enemy is causing all the harm. And then when he finds out, he's able to clean his name. And I was thinking of that famous phrase, right? Keep my friends close and keep my enemies closer. It's exactly what they're saying here. If we know who our enemies are, it's much easier to deal with them. If we don't know who they are, then it's much more difficult. That's the same thing when we are obsessed, but we don't know the obsessor and we are not aware. It's much more difficult to deal with than when we become aware of it and we understand it and we address the issue, right? Like Fabio talked about the addicted, right? When you are addicted and you don't recognize it, it's very difficult for you to overcome it. But once you recognize and you look for help, then you have a much better chance of being successful in overcome it. So that's what Kardec is saying here, that Spiritism actually helps us deal with these obsessions and these processes, not the other way around. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, 245.
Sorry. Jumped by itself.
Okay, 245.
Hey, João,
Yes,
okay.
Renato.
I was just thinking here, when a medium, I'm trying to learn here, I'm trying to be, to keep my radar on at all times, let's put it that way. If you have a lifestyle, because I'm not judging no one, but some people, they are spiritists, on the day that they go into the spirit center, and then they go with their lives doing whatever, they go back to the crazy things. Okay, not judging. But there are some people, that, besides going to the spirits group, they read books, they do other activities that involve to be on that spirit. It becomes like a way of life. I mentioned that before. And so in your opinion or experience throughout the times that you've been studying, seeing this kind of things, what would you how in the case that a person that is already a way of life, the spirit is not like something that oh, I have to do this, is something that I like to be a part of this, and still falls on that. So in your opinion, what do you think was missing? What do you think is because I was talking to Elman the last time, I was getting to a conclusion that is a moral thing, because the the intellectual part in the studies and the classes, everything is pretty much available. So it's more of a trial. In your experience, what's your take on it?
I think it's the problem is that we are many of us are comfortable in their ways of being, right? Comfortable in their habits and their lives. And Spiritism asks us to change ourselves, to work on ourselves, to improve, to go deeper inside ourselves, to look for our own imperfections, shortcomings. And most of us are not prepared to do that. So Spiritism helps up to a certain point, but to go beyond that point, it requires an extra effort that we are not willing to do. So I think limited by our imperfection, our still very attached to material world behavior, we struggle to rise above and beyond our daily lives, and we end up making some effort. The fact that we are going to a spirit center, that we are trying to learn, we are trying to improve ourselves, it's already a sign that we are making an effort, some effort. But could we have done much more? Can we do much better? Yes, we can all do better than we are doing. So I think that in the end, it falls back to our, with our comfort zone. We feel comfortable in our comfort zone, and we don't want to make much of an effort to get out of our comfort zone, and that it's what causes us to not progress as much as we could. But the fact that we we are going to the Spirit Center, we're doing the work, it's already a sign of improvement, because there are many out there that are not doing even that, right? That they are so, even people that believe that there is something after the death of the physical body, that the soul survives, but they don't make any effort in learning more about it, and in trying to understand the consequences of what they are doing here. So I think that we have to praise those that make the effort, even if it's a minimal effort, is already more than nothing. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Absolutely. 245. The motives behind obsession vary according to the character of the spirits. At times, it entails revenge against persons who wronged them during their present life or in a previous one. Quite often, it is simply the desire to do evil, since because they suffered, they wish to make others suffer too, feeling a kind of pleasure in tormenting and humiliating them. The impatience of their victims also excites them, because they then accomplish their objective. However, if their victims are patient, they tire of the game. If their victims become irritated and show their anger, they do exactly what they want them to do. Sometimes such spirits act out of hatred and jealousy toward whatever is good. That is why they cast their malevolence ever honest over honest individuals. One of these spirits attached itself like a true limpet to a good family of our acquaintance, which did not, however, have the satisfaction of deceiving. When questioned as to the motive for its attack against such good folk, instead of latching onto individuals like itself, it responded, "They do not give me anything to be envious of." Others are driven by sheer cowardice, taking advantage of the mental weakness of certain persons whom they know to be incapable of offering any resistance. One of these, who subjugated a boy of rather low intelligence, responded to us concerning the reason for its choice. "I feel a real need to torment someone. A sensible person will repel me. I have attached myself to a lame brain who cannot resist."
Okay.
Uh,
So what are the motives behind the obsession? We know the obvious one, right? Which is desire of vengeance, hatred. We have those that have caused us pain, that we caused pain in previous incarnations, that they cannot forgive us, and they will start this obsessive process. Again, it's always a two-way street, right? You are obsessing, and the obsessors and the obsessed can be interchangeable between lives. You can become an obsessor of the obsessed and vice versa. So a lot of those cases are these sentiments of revenge. But also, there are those that they do evil because they are suffering, and they want others to suffer. Misery loves company, right? Yeah. So they don't want to suffer alone, so they need to find someone that are going to suffer with them. There is also the obsessions connected to addictive behaviors that we have, that spirits that take pleasure in the addictive behaviors will connect to us and obsess in order for us to continue providing them with what they need. Then Kardec talks here about the reaction of the obsessed plays a part on the process of obsession, right? Because if they see the results, they become more excited about the obsession. They become more focused in the obsessive process because they are succeeding. But if the obsessed are not reactive to the obsession, they may tire, they may change, right? This especially happens when on the addictions, right? Someone is connected to you because you drink. The moment you stop drinking, there's a lot of people out there drinking. They don't need you specifically, so they'll try to make you drink because they are already connected to you, so it's more comfortable. But if you insist in not drinking, they'll move to someone else. You know, you can imagine a spirit trying to obsess someone like Chico Xavier, right? Someone that is always working to do good, always working to help others. You know, you need to be very patient to obsess someone like that, and you are going to probably fail miserably, right? But those that react, become irritated, show anger, the obsessors see that they are succeeding, so they will even increase the process. And then he gives a couple of examples here of one that was obsessing a family that you know, he was irritated because the family didn't give him any motive to be envious of, and he wanted to disturb. And others, you know, one that subjugated a boy because he wanted to torment someone, and the boy was easier to torment. Again, it has to have something with the past, of course, because no obsession happens without the two connecting, right? So in the case of this mentally challenged boy, you can ask what's the justice that spirits allow him to be obsessed. Of course, there is a past there that caused him to become to come into this incarnation mentally challenged, and to have an obsessor, which is something from a previous incarnation, even if the obsessor doesn't know anything about it. Okay. These are causes of obsession. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I think we have time to one more.
246.
João,
Yes, Renato.
I'm finding a lot of questions then, sorry about that.
No problem.
So in a relationship, an obsession relationship where there's the hate factor, I'm trying to understand the dynamics for the influence, because it's not like you are going to talk to the medium, to the person being influenced, or it just works through. It's more of a mental, because let's say that I'm a seeing medium, and there's someone that hates me and, you know, trying to obsess me, and I probably will be able to see it coming. Let's say, like, for example, in the example that you gave of Chico Xavier, he would see the guy from a mile, because, you know, pretty much sees everything. So is that something like that happens more of a mental vibration? It's not like a through connection that you can sense that the vibration of the spirit, the hate, can the medium sense that, and or the obsessor kind of you know, changes all that in order to play with the person obsessing?
Sometimes the medium can sense it. Sometimes the obsessor knows how to disguise the presence. And, you know, the obsessive process is not something that starts from one moment to another. It's a process that takes a while to happen. So it begins with an approximation, a connection, but the connection, it's not an obsession yet. The persistence of the connection is what's going to become an obsession if something is not changed. So even when you are a medium that can perceive the approximation of an uncomfortable spirit can change his or her mental vibration through prayer, through elevation of thoughts, and can disconnect before the process of obsession takes place. So that's why the obsessor will try to approach very softly, very disguise their real intentions, to be able to involve the medium in its deceiving purposes. So again, I use the example of Chico as a joke, but for an obsessor to obsess Chico, he has to have some reception from his side, Chico's side, and it's difficult to see any reception on his side, right? But again, Divaldo had this obsessor throughout his life, right? This enemy, the Iron Mask, right? That followed him his whole life, almost caused him to commit suicide. It's an enemy of the past that is persecuting him for centuries. And finally, it recognized by his work, the work that he has done, that he had to change his ways, the obsessor. So again, if even Divaldo is subject to a heavy obsessor like the one he had, can imagine us, right? But what can we do is to use the resources available to protect ourselves, to prevent this from happening, or to minimize the damage, right? At least.
Yeah, I asked because I remember, I don't remember the character's name, but I remember on the book Liberation, that André Luiz was listening to a conversation between two women, and the obsessor was kind of hiring the wife of the guy to make his life miserable, so she could attack him, and then I remember she was saying, oh, but he's trying to get better or whatever, and he said, no, you cannot allow him to do that. So it's like, because I think she knew that a direct obsession, let's put it that way, would not work, because the guy would sense it. So she was using the wife in order to make his life miserable, to lower his vibration, whatever, so she could be more he could be more successful to her kind of energy. That's why I was thinking a direct obsession sometimes will not work for someone that is trying to is in a different path.
Absolutely right. They know exactly our weak points, and our weak points are those around us sometimes, right? Our family members, our loved ones, and they will attack us through our loved ones because they know they can't reach us directly. Very, very common. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we stop here.
Okay.
We leave for Elmo next week to continue. You do our final prayer, Zoraida?
Of course. To our spiritual benefactors, our guardian angels, we give you thanks as we come to the end of our meeting today, understanding and putting into practice the grave understanding of obsession. And we take it under our wings, understand it, study it, and help those that are around us who are going through some kind of obsession with our prayers, our work, and our studies. We ask as we leave here today that we continue, most important, to continue our prayers in our homes, for our families, and the outside world. We're going again through so much suffering and pain. May we meet again next week to continue our studies, and to meet again throughout the week in our meetings. We ask as we leave here today to continue doing all that we can and doing the good to our neighbor, and love our God with all our heart and soul. We are so grateful, dear Lord, for all that you have given us. May we continue to understand the love, the patience that you surround us with. We thank you, dear Lord, and we ask as we leave here today, grateful for everything. And with that in mind, we ask permission to close our meeting tonight. So be it.